I have been living a lie my entire life. Dad, I've been living a lie. Did you know this?
I did. I'm your father.
Oh, dang.
Now is the appropriate time to come out of the metaphorical smoke.
I put that on stage for a appropriate reason. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate
Are you
that.
that selfish that you need a chair?
Yes, I
Okay.
need the chair.
Now,
I need the chair.
we're going to play good advice, bad advice, worst advice. We're going to have some people, Carly, Nate, and Kason on stage. Now, you guys are going to give these people, this is a, what is it?
An advice show.
An advice show. Yes, an advice show. Thank you, Dad, for words I don't forget. And so this is going to be an advice show. And Carly can only give good advice. Nate can only give bad advice. And whatever, and however bad Nate's advice is, Kason has to give the worst advice. And, I mean, so what we're going to need is a topic for their advice show.
Like dating or something
Like
that.
an advice show topic, something that you would need advice
How
on.
to order a custom drink at Starbucks.
That's very specific.
But very expensive.
How about something a little less specific?
Yeah, let's
Something
not.
we can get multiple questions on.
Other than your teenage children.
Oh, so
All right. How about parenting?
parenting
Parenting,
sounds
I think is good.
We'll see an advice show about parenting. Let's see that.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Parent Chat. Here on our show, we take your calls to tell you how to raise your children, because we're tired of doing it in our schools and we want to send it back home to you. I have with me several experts here on child raising. Carly here. She's never actually had any children. In fact, she hates children, but she knows a lot on the subject, and we brought her along. Nate is an author, an award-winning author on Your Kid, Your Time. And then Kason, how many kids have you had now? Yes, alive.
That came from me.
Yes, that came from a lot. Let's just go with a lot, and so obviously has a lot to say on the subject. So let's get right to our calls. Who has a question for the panel? No one has a question for the panel. Yes, sir, you.
Should you spank your child?
Corporal punishment. Should you spank your child?
Should you spank your child? Well, I wouldn't personally spank my children, that's because I'm never going to have any. But if I were to have children and they were really, really, really bad, maybe, but probably not. It's kind of frowned upon now, so maybe not.
Okay, Nate, do you agree with that advice?
Well, after having a few kids of my own and writing my own book, I'm a master on this. And it really depends on what objects you keep in your house. If they're not hard enough, they're not going to learn the lesson.
Is that sound advice?
That's pretty. That's the beginner level. I really like that advice actually. Once you get a little bit more advanced, like me, I like to recommend a lot of activities, like baseball. That has a lot of stuff to help punish your kids instead of spanking, if you know what I mean. Swimming. Great thing to do with your kids when they're not listening.
I think we know what you mean, yes. I think we do. It is at this point that I would like to remind you that the views of the panel do not necessarily reflect the views of Parent Chat or the Moonlight Playhouse. Next call. Yes.
How should I go about potty training?
Potty training, that is always a challenge. What is the best technique for potty training?
I think the best technique, from what I've heard, and everything, in that one book I read like 4 years ago, I heard this method where you stop putting diapers on them, you just put them in their underwear, and eventually they get tired of being wet, and then they learn.
Kind of a free-range approach.
Yeah.
Nate, you're making a face there. It doesn't seem like you agree.
You see, they don't understand the price you pay on diapers. So if they keep pooping, You just keep them in the same diaper for weeks on end. Then they learn they have a rash too bad, they'll stop pooping.
I'm almost afraid to outcase it. Does that align with your philosophies?
It kind of does. I mean, I've been wearing the same diaper since my parents. And I'm learning it the hard way. But if it doesn't work, I totally agree with my last suggestions. The swimming pool, baseball, bowling.
So more negative reinforcement is what you're telling me.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, another question for the panel. Yes, you
How do
there.
you get your kids to
How do you get your kids to eat vegetables?
You make them eat it. If they want food, they're gonna eat the vegetables first, and they're gonna eat the rest of the food. Right? Maybe? I don't know. What about you?
So you have 2 pantries in your house. One has all the good food, it's locked. One has only vegetables. They don't eat vegetables, they don't eat.
Kason?
I don't believe in vegetables, personally. I like to think of my kids to not eat anything from the ground. I don't trust it. If I have not made it in my lab, I don't know what's in there for real. How do I know it came out of the ground?
Okay, another question. Yes. How do you get your kids? Oh God, I'm most afraid to ask. How do you get your kids to stop crying?
Well, I don't have kids, so
How would you get hypothetical children to stop
hypothetical
crying?
children. All right, they're screaming, they're crying. Maybe you could smack them, but you know it's not really cool. You could swaddle them up like in the little burrito thing, and then stick them in their crib. No matter how old they are, I'm sure they still have the crib. So you just swaddle them up real tight, even a 7-year-old. You just stick them in the crib, and they'll stop.
And that's the good advice. Okay, Nate.
Well, we all know where tears come from. Water. Stop giving them water.
Kason?
I've taken quite a few approaches. My recent one that I like to do is I like to take the kids to the zoo. It cheers them up, and then when you hang them over the gorilla pit, they get really excited. And they stop crying.
Okay, time for one more question before the FCC shuts us down. Yes, you there.
What?